Hi, Korypto Stylist here. I hope that you've had a good start to the new year, and I welcome you to the first show of Junya Loves Crypto. Junya is my dog, and it's about 2:30 in the morning here, so she's sleeping, but she will be making an appearance in future shows, so stay tuned. You probably guessed from my name that I work in fashion. I am a buyer, and I buy and trade women's clothing. I think that a lot of people have the impression or the notion that fashion is just about beautiful things and creativity and glamour and runway shows and models, which is part of what the industry is, but it's also a cutthroat industry. Fashion is a $3 trillion business, which at this moment is larger than the entire global cryptocurrency market. It's 2% of the GDP of the world. And throughout my career, I would say that I've worked with over $1 billion of merchandise. I mean, it's volatile, emotionally charged, and I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. But my true passion, however, comes from working with new designers and being in a position where I can help them and have the ability to nurture them and support them in their growth. A really nice story, there's a now friend of mine, designer, who 10 years ago walked into my store with a duffel bag, like not even a nice one, I might add. And he came straight up to me and he said, "I know who you are. My name is so-and-so, and I love your store. I know your customer, and I have a collection that I think will do really well here. Just give me 5 minutes." So I gave him 5 minutes, and he was right. The collection was really good. It's such amazing ideas, and it was really fresh and thought out and beautifully made, and we started doing business together. And now fast forward 10 years to now, present time, my friend is in the process of selling his company to a big fashion house. So it's such a nice success story. And that's really why I love my job so much. But now I work for a bigger corporation, and we have to be a little bit more, people can't come in with a duffel bag. We have to do more analysis in determining whether or not we're going to work with new designers. So we is considering, for example, who's the founder of the community, the size of the business, what's the potential of growth, innovation, marketing, social media, what's the benchmark of something prior that's been successful, so we can feel sure and confident that this will be successful. So it's pretty analytical now, but I still like the challenge of working with a much larger volume and working with corporate metrics and being much more analytical. And yeah, that's me. That's what I do for a living. But I'm actually here today to talk to you about crypto. And I think maybe the best place to start is to tell you about my journey, about how I went from being a fashion person to going into crypto. And I'm still a fashion person, but I also do crypto. So for those of you who are watching, who are thinking about going into crypto, but you're really intimidated, I completely understand, because I was that person. I mean, in fact, I was a person who never would even think about stocks or trading, definitely not crypto. And I thought that inflation, that people were talking about it, but it didn't think that it would affect me, that 2% a year would be negligible and it wouldn't affect my life at all. And it wasn't until I zoomed out and I started to look at what was happening to our economy on a more macro level and understood that the compounded effect of this 2% a year meant that in the course of my lifetime, that the money that I have now will be worth less than half, which means that I would have to either invest in inflation-beating assets, or I would have to lower my standard of living, meaning I couldn't travel to the places I like to go, or dine at the places I like to eat, or buy the clothes that I wanted to wear. And this to me just wasn't acceptable. And then I learned that billionaires are dumping their money, investing into crypto as a hedge against inflation. And this was my call to action. And let me tell you, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I feel that it's my responsibility to share this with people who haven't been onboarded and who don't understand and are too scared to get in. So at this point, I was introduced by a good friend to cryptocurrency, and I was fortunate enough that my first project that I invested in was a project called PulseChain, and we'll talk to you more about it in the course of this video. I got to participate in the sacrifice. So that was a pretty good one to get in for the first project. But I'm going to start by saying that cryptocurrency is the greatest appreciating asset in the history of mankind. And to quote Richard Hart, who is a mentor, getting crypto right is the single most important financial decision you will make in your life. So I am making this video to share with you some advantages and key differences between some of the well-known and popular cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Uniswap, so you can benchmark things that you've heard of with a handful of very strong projects from Richard Hart, which I personally believe in, and wanted to share with you some analysis so that you can use that to do further research. You should always do your own research, and please know that this is in no way financial advice. So when I'm analyzing a project and trying to figure out which ones have the greatest potential for gains and why, I look at four things. I look at the founder, I look at the community, I look at the scalability, which meaning the possibility for gains, and then the quality of the project. So we'll start with the founder. Satoshi is a founder of Bitcoin, and there's not really a lot to discuss because he's completely absent. No one knows who he is, and he might not even be alive. And so obviously he's not very active in the community and doesn't influence what's happening on the journey for Bitcoin. Vitalik Buterin is the founder of Ethereum, and he is minimally active but not very engaged. And also, I think it's pretty fair to say that he's not the most dynamic of human beings. So not really one to motivate and inspire and promulgate change and to be really active and proactive, which I think is really important in crypto. So then this brings us to Richard Hart, who is a unicorn in cryptocurrency. Richard was a child prodigy who taught himself to read at the age of 3. He's a member of Mensa. He's an entrepreneur who retired as a millionaire at the age of 25. That's incredible to me, which means he has really strong business sense. He mined his own Bitcoin, which shows that he has a deep understanding of code and game theory. So it's really good in terms of his experience within crypto. He wrote self-help books and gives them away for free. And he helped with these books a lot of people to stop drinking and gambling and trading and to quit video games. He changed a lot of lives. He's donated $27 million to the Sense Foundation charity, which is dedicated to human longevity. So he's literally saving lives. And he protects the community with frequent emergency live streams to warn people about hacks or other scams that he finds out on other chains. So I remember last summer, I think it was, that Richard did a live stream in the middle of the night. He was staying at a hotel traveling in Europe, and he was in his pajamas, which I think were like Louis Vuitton or something ridiculous like that. And he did an emergency live stream to warn us about this hack and didn't want anyone to get hurt. And then he put it out on social media. But that to me is a sign of character. And that's also the kind of leader who motivates people and engages a community. So currently in HEX, which is the currency, the token that he started, which I will also go into more detail later, but HEX is his first project in cryptocurrency. And it has 277,000 holders. Richard has 147,000 followers on Twitter. So that means that his level of engagement is that 53% of the holders follow him on Twitter, which then leads me to the next point about the community. When Bitcoin and Ethereum communities they're active on social media. There's no, I mean, there's maximalists, they're super hardcore. They put out content. If you type in hashtag Bitcoin or Ethereum, a lot of things come up. There are a lot of people talking about it. There are a lot of people who are really, really evangelical about it and really passionate about it. But they pale in comparison to the activity of the HEX and PulseChain communities, which is the Richard Hart communities. In the last 2 years, so in only 2 years, this community has, and it's the best community ever, they have filmed a documentary from 5-time Emmy Award-winning director. They've had 2 conferences. They just finished one, and they have a 3rd live one that's going to be taking place in Las Vegas in March. They've done a worldwide multi-city tour of meetups for community members and onboards. They have over 100 streamers. That's actually how I learned about HEX. I onboarded myself onto HEX by watching people like Gerardo and Wales and Crypto Coffee and Hexologist and RG3 and gosh, there's so many. Rags to Riches, Crypto Heartbeat, and of course Richard. They're launching a Grayscale fund, and they have multiple charities, including Pulse Promise, which I think is an incredible project. And there are multiple protocols being built on HEX and PulseChain as we speak, including a wallet, and I think we're looking into also fiat on-ramp, which is really important to take everything vertical. This kind of community will bring tremendous value to his projects. They do bring tremendous value because they're built-in marketing and they are onboarding, so they're personally taking responsibility for mass adoption and they're protecting the projects. And I don't even know how you would quantify what the value of this is, but just having witnessed it myself firsthand, it's pretty incredible. The next thing I consider when assessing a project is the potential for gains and scalability. And the first factor I consider is timing. Now, the best time to get into a project is day 1. And for Pulse and PulseX, which have not yet launched, you have the chance to get in on day 1. HEX, however, has been around for a couple of years. So I wanted to go through with you and do some analysis as to whether or not it's too late, which I don't think that it is, and to tell you why I think that it's still pre-viral. So if you look at Bitcoin, it's been around for 13 years, and Ethereum has been around for 7 years. And the maximum gains that has been achieved with Bitcoin is 6.9 million times. I don't really know how much higher it can go up. I mean, we will see, but that's pretty maxed out. Ethereum has gone up 14,000 times. HEX has gone up 10,000 times. The number of holders of a wallet, and this is important because it really shows the number of users. And if there's not a lot of users yet, then you have the potential to grow a lot more because then there's room to scale up because it's not saturated yet. So with Bitcoin with 144 million, Ethereum 71 million, HEX only has 277,000 users. That's over 500 times fewer than Bitcoin and 300 times fewer than Ethereum. So the scalability of the project, to me, this is a really key metric and indicator as to how high and how far this project can actually go. The next thing to consider is the availability on central exchange. So Bitcoin is available on a central exchange and so is Ethereum. And what this means is that central exchanges are like, I would say the best equivalent for those of you who are not familiar with cryptocurrency. It's like being available on Amazon. It's a huge platform with a massive customer database with engaged users and has a marketing reach and budget that's just monstrous. And so once you're plugged into that kind of system, it's really hard to really think about adopting exponentially more users or more volume of sales because you're exposed to the maximum number of people. That's what central exchanges are versus not being on a central exchange. HEX is not on a central exchange yet. And also, another factor to consider with kind of in the same vein would be the fiat on-ramp. And now this means that you're able to buy the currency directly with your government-backed money. So directly from a dollar or from a euro or from a Korean won or whatever government-backed currency that you use. And then you don't have to go through the process of buying Ethereum and then exchanging it into HEX, which is what we have to do with HEX. And the fact that we don't have this yet means that when we do have it, that we're going to be able to, again, sell to a lot more people, have access to a lot more people, and really dramatically increase the volume. So for these reasons, I believe that HEX is still pre-viral and the timing is good. What The best comparison that I can make is that it would be the equivalent of getting into, and I'm going to show you this graph, and this graph is from Gerardo from Look Into HEX. He does amazing work and one of the first influencers who really convinced me to go into HEX. You can see here the multiples since launch, the return on investment multiples since launch, and then time. And you're comparing HEX, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. And as you can see, HEX is the pink, so you see here, and look how much higher it is than both Ethereum and Bitcoin. So imagine if you could have invested in Bitcoin here. That's essentially the chance that we have right now. You can go all the way up because we're only 2 years old. Criteria I consider when assessing whether or not to invest in a project is the quality of the project, which would be innovation, game theory, and security. Here, I'm going to compare Bitcoin and HEX. Bitcoin is the first peer-to-peer payment network, plain and simple. It's digital money. There's no innovation, there's no utility, it doesn't do anything, you can't build a smart contract on it, it doesn't pay interest, there's no yield. And there's been no technical development, and the transaction times are really slow. When you compare Bitcoin to HEX, and HEX is actually a fork of Bitcoin. HEX is this revolutionary asset that is a savings account with an average APY of 38%. You earn interest when you stake your tokens. So you basically lock them up, and you can choose the period of time you want to put them away, and they get taken out of circulation, which drives up the price, which is why HEX is performed so incredibly. And you have to wait until your time is up, and then you can take them out, or you can restake them. You can do whatever you want at that point. But the system is set up to make people put their money away so they won't have the temptation to spend it or to blow it or to trade it. And this not only reduces the liquidity, but it also increases the stability of the price because you don't have people dumping and trading. What's incredible is that there are 80,000 stakers out of 270,000 wallets. That's more than a quarter of holders are staking. And the average stake length is 6 years. 6 years. This is how much people believe in this asset and believe in and know what they can actually gain from staking. And also people are getting really rich off of this. You can't even compare. It's like comparing MySpace to TikTok. It's just two completely different things, and it's just moved on so many eons and generations of innovation. Okay, so the other issue is security. Bitcoin has been hacked, and HEX has had 100% uptime, and the code is immutable. Then we're going to move on to Ethereum and PulseChain. Now, PulseChain, Pulse is a fork of Ethereum, and we'll compare some of the statistics. The time per transaction from Ethereum is 14 seconds. Pulse is much faster, it's at 3 seconds. The fees, and as we all know, Ethereum is very broken, and the fees are just astronomical right now. They're often over 100 times, and many times even much higher. I've heard of people having fees that are in the thousands, gas fees. Pulse is averaging at about 2 cents. So while Ethereum has not been hacked, so there's not necessarily a security concern, Pulse gives me a lot of faith because Richard he's about to launch the third testnet. The last testnet had over 250,000 transactions. This is the only way to really figure out what the bugs are and what the flaws in the system are. So he's meticulous and spends a lot of time and a lot of energy on testing to make sure that when he launches, that it's good and it won't go down. He also does ongoing security inspections, which is really important in terms of ensuring that the system doesn't get hacked. The game theory for Ethereum, for those of you who are not familiar with Ethereum, essentially it allows the deployment of smart contract on top of it. So you can put a smart contract on top of it. And this was revolutionary at the time. And so that's why NFTs and a lot of projects are launching within Ethereum, and it's becoming increasingly popular. But it's also why the system is, because it's not scaled properly, it's clogging, and that's why the fees are so high and the transactions are getting slower and slower. Pulse, on the other hand, as a fork of Ethereum, has an additional game theory. And the additional game theory that it has, and this is really important, is called a system state copy. It's a system state copy of all ERC20s. Okay, now what does this mean? This means that for everyone on the Ethereum chain who has an ERC20, they're going to get a copy 1-for-1 of that exact ERC20 on the Pulse chain. and that would be called a PRC20. So to explain it even more in layman's terms, the best analogy that I can come up with, it would be as if Nordstrom, you shop at Nordstrom, and you have 2 Chanel bags and 4 pair of Prada shoes, let's just say. And let's say that Bergdorf Goodman is opening up down the street. And when they open, they're going to automatically hold and have for you 2 Chanel bags and 4 pair of Prada shoes, which you don't have to sign up for anything. They're not going to call you. They're not going to email you. It's just going to be there. You show up at Bergdorf and you give them your account number, your wallet address, the goods there will be waiting for you. And if you choose and you don't want another Chanel bag and you don't want another pair of Prada shoes, you can take those and exchange them for Manolos, or you could exchange them for Dior or Celine. You could exchange it for something else. But this is genius marketing because people love free things. They love getting a deal. So essentially they're going to be doubling their bag and they'll be forced to go over to the PulseChain to claim it. And once they come to the PulseChain, they have to buy Pulse to be able to transact. And if they want to do any exchange, they're going to have to buy PulseX. So it's just a way to encourage people to participate in the system. It's brilliant. Overall, Pulse is faster, cheaper, less harm to the environment because it's proof of stake. The last project that I'm going to discuss is PulseX. PulseX is a decentralized exchange which enables you to exchange tokens on the PulseChain. The fees for PulseX will be lower than the fees in Uniswap, and the token will be deflationary through an automatic buy and burn function, which uses 21% of all fees collected that will go towards buying PulseX, removing those PulseX from the market, taking it to an address to never ever see the light of day again, which means that the circulation of the coins will decrease over time, making it deflationary, which increases the scarcity and also increases the value, drives up the price. The Uniswap token and PancakeSwap tokens are both inflationary. In terms of number of holders, the potential is really promising for PulseX because Uniswap has 297,000 holders, but PulseX in the sacrifice phase of only 13 days has over 50,000. So it's already 1/6 of the way to where Uniswap is. And PancakeSwap in its first 45 days amassed 75,000 addresses. I think that by the end of the PulseX sacrifice phase, that they will surpass the number of addresses that PancakeSwap had in 45 days. So what I'm saying is that PulseX is going to come out of the gate running, and I think increase and grow at a faster pace than did their counterparts of Uniswap and PancakeSwap. The return on investment that we've seen so far in Uniswap, in 3.5 months, it was 100 times. For PancakeSwap, it was in 7 months, you saw 137 times. For PulseX, it's to be determined. Obviously, it's not launched yet, but members of the community are throwing around numbers as high as 10,000. I'm thinking more like 1,000, but it really just remains to be seen when we just understand the network effect of PulseChain, how many people really participate, yield farming, and how many of the ERC holders come over and start to interact with the chain. The faster that happens, I think that the faster we're going to see the price go up, and we'll have a true sense of what the potential could be. In terms of time in market, Uniswap has been in market for 3 years, and PancakeSwap has been in market for 16 months. PulseX obviously has not launched yet. So these are all the decentralized exchanges are relatively new, so we don't have an incredibly large amount of data. But given the game theory for PulseX, a lot of the members of the community are super bullish on it. And as you can see at the sacrifice phase, they have collected over $880 million of investment so far, and this is just at day 13. So it'll be really exciting to see what happens when this project launches. Okay, so that is my show. Thank you so much for watching. In summary, I really believe that it's worth it for you to check out HEX, PulseChain, PulseX. You have a chance to get in day 1. HEX is still pre-viral. It's very early. It's like getting into Bitcoin in 2011. You could still have exponential gains. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. And I will be doing a live stream soon with John Wick, where you can join us and ask questions. He's actually a financial expert, and we're going to do a really in-depth analysis on HEX, Pulse, and PulseChain, and we're going to look at the investment theory, because a lot of people are asking me how should they divide their investment between Pulse, HEX, PHEX, which will be HEX of the PulseChain, and PulseX, and how they should divide that proportionately. So we'll do a lot of analysis and ask questions and hopefully help you come to a decision and help you to invest well. All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.